Thank you, Amechi, for that background report. With me in the studio to look at some issues raised in our background report and the investigation we did earlier is a professor of international law and global politics, Professor JEHU Onyekwere NNAJI. Prof is a regular guest on Searchlight. You're welcome.
Thank you so much and good evening.
Also with us in the studio is the Vicar for Public Relations, Catholic Diocese of Enugu, and a lecturer in the Department of Philosophy, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, Reverend Father Dr. Nnamdi Nwakwo. Father, you are welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right, let me start with Prof. We have two educationalists in today's discussion. But Prof, you can remember over and over we have been discussing issues surrounding COVID-19. And the school closure we were meant to understand is to protect the children from coronavirus. But you can see from our investigation, they're all over the streets, hawking, making brisk businesses without recourse to the danger of contracting COVID-19. Would you now say that the closure of school is now counterproductive because these children are not being protected in any way if they're outside their homes?
Yes, absolutely. The real reason for closure of schools is actually to curtail and to contain this virus, which has been endemic. Because the problem on hand is that we are suffering this pandemic now because there is no known cure and no observable vaccine to help to curtail the spread. Then the government's intervention by creating the lockdown as well as to close the schools is to further bring back the situation under control. But we can see that that has not worked. It has not given any useful result. Because the real reason for the closure is to prevent these children or restrain them from going to school and then spreading the virus. But now, it is now counterproductive because they now find themselves in a situation where their parents are not able to maintain the standard of living or means of subsistence. Now, as you can know, most of these parents have been living from hand to mouth, and the situation on ground has been, made worse by the fact that these children are there at home. They cannot contribute meaningfully to the upkeep of the homes. And most times, the parents have no choice other than send them to the streets to hawk. So the primary reason of the hawking is as a result of poverty. So I think there must be a carrot and stick approach to the issue. I will not say that they should go about, arresting the parents or bring about punitive measures for those who have contravened this very legislation. But at the same time, the government has to also discover that, put in place a kind of measure that will help to ameliorate the situation of the family, the suffering masses, so to say. And when this is done, it is possible to help curtail this because the children cannot be restrained at home and as well restrained outside because their level, they are very boisterous. So they must go out, whether to hawk or to play. Whichever way, the virus must be eventually spread, indiscriminately.
All right. Thank you, Prof, for that opinion of yours. Let's hear from Reverend Father Nnamdi Nwakwo. You heard his view. Poverty may be the cause of these parents allowing their children to go and make money to support the family. But don't you think that the spike in cases of COVID-19 should put fear in the minds of people to be more cautious concerning the virus?
Well, definitely you're right. Every day the index is going up, and it should be a deterrent, but it is not. Why it is not is because of awareness. Somehow we are creating awareness through the media and the television, the radio, which many people are hooked to. But we're in a society where the average person has not seen the television operating for a long time, and some people are so busy they don't even listen to the radio. So other forms of enlightenment. In those days they used to go to the marketplaces, to the square, to where people gather to enlighten people on the need to protect from this COVID-19. But it's not the same. I'm just coming from a function where everybody was looking at me like a fool because I covered my mouth with the what do you call it, the face mask. And the rest of them were just drinking and laughing. And one of them was so bold to tell me, you are at home now, remove this. Let us see you and talk. So it's ignorance and unawareness. And there is all this confusion emanating from the leaders themselves, whether it is this thing is a hoax or something that were just created
to
yes, to either scare people or to embezzle money.
Okay.
And so all these things we just need for enlightenment. I think that is what is going on. We presume that the people know what is happening because we went to the television and the radio, but many people don't know what is going on.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Prof, you mentioned poverty. Now, Reverend Father Nwakwa has brought the issue of ignorance. These are two factors. But when we talk about ignorance, do you think that the kind of campaign, enlightenment concerning COVID-19, that they do not reach the people they are supposed to reach? For instance, the children. Do you think that they are well enlightened concerning this?
Yes, very much so. The children are always television enthusiasts. So they watch TV more regularly than the adults. So I'm quite aware that most children are well informed about this coronavirus. But what happens is that they are not credulous enough to see it as something that is enough to kill because of the tender ages. Now, let me put it in perspective. Most families have created a kind of avenue to educate their wards and as well as children on the danger, the menace of this ravaging COVID-19. But that is not enough. The reason is the fact that, like I said earlier in my opening salvo, the fact that poverty has become endemic, people are constrained to do what is out of the ordinary because they must eke out a living. So, and according to the International Labour Organization, which is the umbrella body that prescribes rules and regulations of employment, we discovered that Nigeria, which is a party to that convention, has gone beyond every reasonable doubt in implementation of that very convention, which allows the normal employment age to be 16. If it's going to be a very tedious or subterranean job. But for 15 years, that is for normal menial jobs, which includes hawking. But I can see, if you go to the street, you see people of 14, 13 hawking. So how do you do this? How do you implement this? Because the legislation is not omnibus. So you cannot eventually bring these people under a common umbrella to start to chastise or to punish them. But one thing is clear. By the time these wards or these children go on the street, they become susceptible to the sexual predators because one thing leads to the other. So child labor, malpractice can eventually lead to what is called sexual abuse, which is punishable, which is a criminal offense in this case. Because if you have someone who is hawking, I mean, you have no legislation to enforce that kind of hawking for the purposes of the tender age, because of course poverty has engendered that very situation. But when sexual abuse is involved, it becomes more criminalized. And such people are supposed to be brought to book. And of course, our laws have covered this area, which makes that kind of offense to be punishable by life imprisonment. So if I have time to speak more on this, I will more and more expatiate and elaborate on this very premise to make it clear to the people that it is important for us to put these things in order our own care to make sure that people are well enlightened and quite informed.
Thank you, Prof. You have made a point here that apart from COVID-19, they are exposed to more danger. All right, Reverend Nwakwa, the issue you talked about earlier concerning enlightenment, I'm trying to know if there are some strategies or maybe ways you will suggest for the kind of message that will instill or make these people, the message concerning COVID-19 to sink deep in the heart of parents and children so that they become more cautious about this COVID-19.
Well, yes, there are so many other ways. You see, thank God they have unlocked the restrictions given to the churches, but kept that of the school. Now, the churches are, because of the nature of the African man, and especially Nigerians, who tend to be very religious, at least religious in the sense of going to services and churches. Because of that, I think emphasis should be placed on clergymen to help the government in this enlightenment. And not just that, government should be doing, in those days when they do the cinema, they go to centers to do cinemas, using them to enlighten people. I don't see why it's not being introduced. But I know at the same time, it will gather people together and they will not sit in spacing and things will be even worse. But there are other ways of public enlightenment, like going with loudspeaker on vehicles and continue the announcement in public places. Like going to the market here, we have new market and we have a better market. If people go around there, you can see that they are not even interested. But when something is being hammering down to their truth continuously, you see a type of change, you know. And then another thing, I think it may not pertain to this, but it pertains. In our states, and probably other states, we tend to hide the patients of COVID-19. We tend to hide them, and we said it's to avoid stigmatization. But it's not helping. It's not helping in the enlightenment. Because I remember once I was trying to talk to some people about this, and one of them just asked me, a very young man, asked me, have you seen anybody who got this? Is any of your relatives sick? So stop all these things. Because we are hiding the names of the sick ones and those that are dead. And as long as we are hiding them, it continues to be a mirage. It continues to be something that is not real. So I'm encouraging government, you know, to overlook the stigmatization problem. Not that that one is not a problem, I know it's a problem, but to overlook it and announce the names. I'm sure that will put chill in the nerves and bones of everybody. And this thing will be, effort will be made by individuals to become conscious of this.
Okay, you want people to have a kind of evidence that, yes, this thing exists.
Yes.
Okay, let's hear from Prof. Do you support such idea, a situation whereby they make patients of COVID-19 known, or maybe we bring them to our programs or interview them for the people to see? Do you think it will help to make people to believe more on the existence of this virus and its dangers?
Well, let me put it here. It's a double-barrel response. First and foremost, a dying person has his own dignity to maintain, or her own dignity to maintain. There's right to life. So the point of death is something that is, more or less an individual's right, which you have to also protect. I mean, if you see someone committing suicide, there are things that will be so graphic to show on air. And this COVID-19, as we know, is a very nascent disease, which, of course, has no treatable option. So I believe that most of the people who suffer and die, they have some other symptoms, including difficulty in breathing. So I think it may be a little bit, off the hook, or kind of absurd to start showing someone who is gasping for breath, and in the process the person dies. It will be too graphic for people to watch. However, in order to be more transparent, I think that what the government can do is to enable people to appreciate the danger, as well as to see the reasonableness in thinking that this disease is real. You know, because most of the people have expressed their unbelief in the sickness, of course. But the unbelief does not make the sickness not to be realistic. It has been killing. But like in the Western world, where things are more transparent, we see some of those things, you know. But here, we are not that transparent. We are growing. I believe one day we'll get there. But all the same, we should create an avenue to let people see, to be convinced that this sickness is very, very, lethal. It is something that can take out life in a jiffy.
All right. Prof, in a situation whereby this enlightenment does not bring the expected results, and these parents keep sending their words to make money for them, would you suggest or recommend punishment for parents that allow their children to hawk in the market on the street without protection against COVID-19?
Yes, like I said before in my opening presentation, you see, poverty is endemic in Nigeria, just like in most other sub-Saharan African countries. It will be out of the blues to start, arresting, punishing parents who have no other means of livelihood, who cannot resort to any other means to feed themselves. Because a hungry man is an angry man. So somebody must find a way to eat. So most of these people are dependent, they live on daily basis. So with the lockdown and the attendant problems that have been unleashed by the lockdown, people must find a way to eat. So I believe there must be a carrot and stick approach. So this is the way I look at it.
Okay, further, briefly, can you tell us how we can engage these children meaningfully within this period that school is closed without, endangering their lives in the name of hawking?
Well, that is true. I can say my own opinion. You see, recently, if you listen to the news, you see that Kano State, for one, has banned hawking and eased the lockdown, but banned hawking, so which is a type of punishment, because if you are caught eventually, you face the law. But as the professor has said, there should be that stick and carrot issue, whereby empowerment, government empowerment, which is not easy in Nigeria, but not that we don't have the resources, it's just the willpower. Empowerment of parents is type of scheme of empowerment which will provide either menial work or support for trading, loan and the grants and all that, and then monitored. That could help in that area. Then coming down to the question, the issue remains that our children are always in danger.
Father Nwako, unfortunately, we don't have much time.
Okay.
We're already rounding up. That was why I said briefly. And I believe maybe some other times we'll revisit this topic.
Definitely.
To you, viewers, this is much we can give you on Searchlight tonight. Remember, Searchlight will still come your way the same time next week. Good night.